Um, during COVID, and the company that I was involved in, News Corporation, pulled 100 papers out of the marketplace, and we've just seen print, actually lose its significance in the whole real estate marketing mix. And in return, what's actually happening is social media has been growing. Now, I have with me a very, very capable, highly skilled practitioner that has worked with social media across business, but has also spent a fair bit of time with the real estate industry specific. So we've got some context there. And Victoria Borbone, if I said it right, Borbone.
Valentina Borbone.
Valentina, I was worried about the wrong word. Valentina, who, by the way, is of fellow Greek origin, which I didn't know. Valentina, look, realestate.com have used her expertise at conferences. She's been interviewed a significant number of times by various other thought leaders and trainers in the industry. And it's absolutely a privilege to be able to have Valentina to share her knowledge of what she's learned about social media and real estate. And so, Valentina, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're very welcome. It's nice to be here. And thanks everyone else for joining live. It's a big deal to go live.
So, Valentina, so here's the deal, we've got a very big real estate community that consumes our content. And we just noticed as time went by was that they increasingly wanted, hey, tell us, should we have a personal page? Should we have a business page? Should I be spending money advertising on Facebook? Oh, what platform is the best? The questions would just come and come. And then what would happen is I would often refer them to various digital media agencies, right? And I would notice a pattern, like a lot of them, Valentina, would go along and they heard and seen that real estate agents were getting massive amounts of listing appraisals through various, lead ads that would generate all this inquiry. And they had this expectation that their life would change. And then I would notice that they would move on and try someone else. And often they would come back, they would do the rounds and come back, and then they'd realize, what I expected and what happened didn't eventuate. I didn't get all these listings. I got a lot of cold leads. That was a common one. Hey, yeah, I did. I mean, if you ask someone 1,000 times, do you want to know what your home's worth? You eventually get someone that says, yeah, but I'm not selling for the next 50 years, but tell me what it's worth, right? I get, right?
Yeah.
So Valentina, this whole social media real estate space. I mean, what are you seeing as some of the examples of the best posts that work in real estate, and are the expectations that agents have got on social media need to be repositioned, and why should you be using social media?
Wow, there's so many questions in that intro. So thanks, Tom. You've set me up really nicely. Firstly, social media is absolutely a place for real estate agents to connect with their community and to generate leads in business. But I think what we need to remember is social has been around for pretty close to 20 years, coming up to its 20-year anniversary. And what started all that time ago has evolved over time. And so what your recommendations are, should I have a business page, a personal page? Should I be sponsoring versus boosting? All of those things have changed over time. And social media is just another media platform. We had newspapers, as you said, that was where it was all at back in the day. Now we're all digital, but digital and social still has a place in amongst traditional media. So it still has a place with TV. There's still a place for letterbox drops, and there's still a place for newspapers. But social does have its role. So yes, real estate agents do need to realign their expectations of the media and also what goes into that media, considering our behavior. So technology is one of those amazing things that changes very, very quickly, and how we use it changes very quickly based on the technology that's in our hands. So when the manufacturers, Apple and Samsung, actually change the handsets, they change the function. And the function means we change our behavior. So we have to remember, for real estate agents, behavior is a huge part of what happens on social. And I'll give you an example of that. I'm not going to see a social post as a customer and then phone the agent and say, right, lead, there it is. There's my activity. What we do with social is warm up to what action we're going to take. So the role and the expectation of social really becomes, I'm warming these customers up to understand who I am, what I do best, what type of personality I have. And each vendor, in my opinion, also has a different motivation for selling. That's the lead generation. I don't think it's a buying. You're not trying to find your buyers out there. The buyers will come to the property. What we're looking for is that vendor to say, I'm being really emotive about my home. I want my agent to be emotive about my home, or I just want the best possible price, and I want cutthroat, I want aggressive, I want business oriented. And that's what I'm looking for in the social activity to validate that customer. Now, I think a lot of agents say to me, everybody just wants the best price, and that's absolute rubbish. It's not about the money for everybody. It's about the money for some people, but there's a lot of emotion tied to their asset, which is usually their largest asset, and something that they're only going to trade on a couple of times in their lifetime, or a few times in their lifetime. So I think you do need to reassess your expectation of social. Yes, you do have to put money into it. Organic only goes so far. And your question of, what sort of posts have I seen agents do very well? Firstly, it's authenticity. And I think it's such a big word, transparency, authenticity. Here I am, this is me, hair and all, Greek hands and all. I don't know how to present without hands coming into it. What you see is what you get. And when you meet me in a business environment, this is me. So show me what you're really like. Let me connect myself to you as a person, whether it be just through your personality and the way you approach things or explain things, and don't explain things that make me feel like an idiot. I've heard lately a lot of people don't understand what off market means, and nor should they. You're the real estate agent. Your vendors aren't the agent. Stop talking in CGI, GCI and all these ridiculous terms that, you know what, you're talking to yourselves. Talk to the customer, and the customer doesn't need to understand your industry. The customer needs to understand how you're going to solve their problems. So the best social posts that I see out there from agents are authentic ones. Just go on camera, and I say on camera because video is where it's at. We're too time poor to read compared to watching video work. And there's also what looks good on paper is very different to what we see in real life being on a video. People can't really hide in a video. It is what it is. When there's that transparency, when there's that honesty, there's trust. And people are entrusting agents to do the right thing by them, by the vendor. How many times have I seen that in someone's spiel? I'm interested in the best outcomes for the vendor. No, they're not. I've dealt with agents too. I've traded my own property. I've seen it all. So if you're going to do something on social and you're going to do it well, you're going to be authentic, you're going to be you, and that's going to attract the right customer.
Yeah.
You do need to sponsor it.
So Valentina, that's interesting because I use a lot of video. I'm not an agent, but I use a lot of video in my training business, and I'm shooting video all the time. And what I've learned is that I need it to be structured, but not scripted. So I'll often get a yellow, like before I shoot a video, I get a yellow stick note, and I just write the 3 bullet points I'm going to talk about. So I don't actually write the whole sentence, because then you're sounding like, the opposite to authentic, right? I'll put a sexy heading, because I know that first second I need to sort of get them to stop as they're flicking through, stop, And you end up, if you can prep for a few moments before you do it, you end up having a structured, not scripted video.
Right.
But I want to ask you, how frequently should you be posting? Does the algorithm recognize frequency?
Yes, it does. So the algorithms in social, and when I'm talking social in this aspect, I'm really looking at Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. LinkedIn. They're the 3 primary ones. YouTube we can talk about separately. 3 to 4 times a week is what you need. 4 would be optimum, and that would be posts. So that's to your feed, and it's what we call organic or non-sponsored activity. And what that does is shows anyone visiting your profile that you're recent, and that's what the algorithm's looking for, is that You're here today. You're not there 3 months ago. In this day and age with COVID, if you haven't posted in 3 months, I'm wondering if you're still in business.
Yeah.
That's our perception. We've got to remember customers' perception, 9/10 of their reality. So what they see is what they're basing their judgment on you for. So they might hear this really good game about you from a word of mouth, right? And then they go and do their digital interview. We've probably all heard the digital interview. We go and first thing, Google search you. What do they find? And if they don't find a match with what they've heard, they're going to go, oh, that sounds a bit dodgy. I don't like the sound of that. Or I'll go look at their video because she sounds really good. But actually, if I just presented like that, I can tell you now, you'd be switched off in less than 5 minutes. So tone of voice and inflection and enthusiasm for what they're doing and a true passion. I hate the word passion. I think it's just overused. People need to understand that that's who you are and that's what they're looking for. That's what they're validating. So the frequency definitely happens in the algorithm, but this is where I talk about behavior. We don't just go to people's feed. Our behavior, and this is Instagram all over, we got dead sick of this scroll, right? We're over scrolling. So Instagram introduced stories up the top, the little circles up the top that everyone sees,
Yes,
hopefully.
yes.
Yep. And what we do is we press play on stories first thing in the morning or breaks or lunchtime. And because stories only last 24 hours, so they have to be in the know, in the now. This is what I'm doing right now, not structured, not overly photographed, but we can use beautiful photography, but it only lasts for 24 hours. So people catch up on the stories at the top. And when it catches their attention that they're really interested in what they saw, they'll go to the feed. And that's where they start getting really in depth with your profile and who you are. Now, with stories, when you post it at 9 o'clock in the morning, it expires at 9 o'clock at night. If you post it at 9 in the morning, midday, 2 p.m., it expires 9 in the morning, midday, 2 p.m. the next day. And every time you upload, your story comes to the front of that queue. Now, we don't scroll across to find whose story we want to watch. We hit play at the beginning and it filters through. So if you're posting stories different to the feed 2 or 3 times a day, you're going to come back to the beginning of people's feeds of that row. So then think about when do we actually do this? Because I don't sit on my phone all day despite being in this business all day. But I get to 9:30 at night and I'm on the couch, the kids are in bed, I've caught up with my husband, I've done some work, and then I'm back on my phone to digest the world. And I start with my stories and I catch up on everything coming through. So actually 9:30 at night is a really good time, or 9 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock at night. Think of where your customer is. Now, if you're talking to, let's call it investors, and I know investors that are on social media. Let's not think that they're only on LinkedIn, but they're going to be there at 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night. Whereas we might be also looking at some young families. The school pickup time is fabulous for this, 2:30 till 4:30, because there's also after school activities. Guess what? The kids are in the swimming pool. They've got an instructor. I'm going to sit by the pool because I have to be here, and I'm going to jump on my social. So how am I being entertained and influenced by social, and where am I when I'm doing it? And that's what agents miss. They just think, I get it out and I've done its job. It hasn't done its job. It's got to compete with the other millions of posts going on. And if you haven't given it frequency and consistency, they're my 2 favorite words, that's where you're letting yourselves down. You're investing in something that's not going to deliver. So I'll go back to almost your first sentence, Tom, which was they sign up for a digital agency, their expectations aren't met. Firstly, reset your expectations. Think about behavior and how this happens. Think about what a customer does before they decide that you're that agent. And that does include word of mouth. It does include the digital interview, and it does include other channels other than social. Don't put all your eggs in the social basket. Please don't do that. We've seen Facebook just shut down real estate in one foul swoop overnight, if you don't remember this happening, and everyone was scrambling to get their profiles back. Why are we putting all these eggs in one basket? You have to grow your own database and you have to maintain a dialogue with them.
Okay. Just a quick question as it comes in.
Yes.
It says, "Hi, Valentina. It's the content that I struggle with. Is there any tips?"
Yes.
Yeah.
Love questions like this. So content, firstly, you've got such a rich industry. You've got beautiful photography, you've got interiors, exteriors, you've got community, you've got landscape, you've got yourselves, you've got property stats, you've got lots of assets available. Most agents stick to just open, just sold, and maybe a testimonial, open home listings. That's boring as ever. If I'm about to be convinced to buy from you, where's you? I want to see people's faces, and not just I want to see people's faces. The algorithm does. All the statistics point to the fact that people engage with people because we're humans and we seek social connection. And that's what they're looking for. A face is what people look for, and not just a face, but a smiling face. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
And that's what encourages people to go, oh, they look friendly, they look nice, they look approachable, and they're not going to make me feel like an idiot in the process. So part of the content needs to be, this is me, this is what I do, this is my routine, these are my favorite places about locality. So if we're being local agents and experts in our local area, show me that you know something about the local area and that you enjoy it and that you immerse yourself in that. So I often have people say about me on social that I eat out a lot and I seemingly like a lot of cocktails. And I think, gosh, I only post a third of what I actually do, but I'm genuinely at those restaurants and eating out and being with my family and friends and supporting our local businesses. That's not just a facade, that's genuinely me going out there. So outside of content about yourself, and no, you don't have to plaster your family to be able to show personality and who you are. So maybe it's showcasing the charitable work or community work that you're involved in, and that can be as simple as helping host the Bunnings barbecue for the local rugby club on Saturday. That's content. That shows they're giving up their Saturday. Not that real estate agents will give up many Saturdays. You've got plenty other things going on with property, but you don't have to put your children on there. Please don't think that you have to do that. I think you'd be hard pressed to find my kids on Banter's Instagram, that's for sure. And you've got to mix up the content. I don't want to see sold, 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 because all I think is, well done you did your job. You know what? That's not that hard in real estate in Australia's property market. And that's where the vendors get fed up. It's like, can we stop putting this halo effect on what real estate agents are doing when the market's this hot? It's not that difficult. So you've got to show the difference between you and the other agents available. Now, I'm in the Southern Highlands. There are 67 different real estate agents and agencies in a region with 50,000 residents. That's a lot of competition. So you've really got to stand out and be different in a market like this. So how do you do that when you're in Sydney or in a cap city? It's pretty tough. You've got to be putting yourself out there. Consistency, so on an ongoing basis, and frequency 4 times a week. That's on the feed. Then you've got stories. Then you've got reels. And we haven't even hit YouTube yet.
Yeah. Well, listen, Valentina, I just feel like we're touching the surface with you. And I know that we've allocated 30 minutes today. And I'd love to be able to have you come back again, because I can see that the questions are coming in. So let me just, one of them is personal or business page. If business page, do I post personal stuff on my business page as well as my business stuff?
To a degree. You've got to remember that your personal page is your family, your friends. Sorry, but they just don't care that much about your work. I know you think they do, but they really don't. My family and friends couldn't care less about what I do in marketing. I do amazing things. Keep that for your business profile. And also your business connections don't want to see you pretty drunk at the last barbecue. They might want to see 1 or 2, but then it gets tedious. So definitely a business page, but it's not just about the content. You can't sponsor posts on a personal page. You can't get any statistics out of a personal page. You can't learn anything from a personal page. And why are you inviting people to like your page? You just want to be able to have a passive action, which is just follow the page. So business page.
Okay. There's another question that's come from Jane. Video can be recorded or live. Anyone better than the other? Is a live video, for instance, on Facebook or Instagram, better than posting a pre-recorded video?
Yeah, so it's a tricky question because there's no right answer. I would be testing both. What you've got to remember with live, and Tom, you've got a fantastic following. You've got we call that appointment viewing. We make the appointment to be here when Tom goes live. Have you got the same stickiness with your audience? And what are they doing to compete for that time? So with live as well, a lot of people will watch with headphones on. I can see even in the group that is here, a lot of you are in offices still. So where are your customers when they're going to be engaged in watching what you're going to say? So I would test. I think pre-recorded works really well for people who aren't really confident in front of a camera. Tom's an experienced presenter, as I am. I'm comfortable doing this. I'm not going to and ah. But you've also got to remember that when people go live, they have to be in a safe environment to do it, i.e. there's not wind or traffic flowing through a microphone.
I can't help it. Like I am what you've just said, the subject and the scientist myself. So I'm constantly, doing testing, and I'm having a look. And I find Valentina that when I go live, when I look back after 5 days, the amount of views is significantly higher if I've gone live. And I'm trying to work out whether that's the algorithm that is actually being supportive of live content and they're actually letting it reach more people. Is that what it is?
They are, but people have to firstly, that's where the platforms are doing things like creating notifications to say this is going live and there's a countdown. Now, when we were doing live on Instagram, when it first came out, people would join and say, we're just going to wait for people to join. And 3 minutes of that, I've left. I'm here for the live. And if other people can't be here respectfully on time, then they get to miss out. So I think there's been an adaptation to what people are willing to participate in when it's live. For me, people's live time is really difficult for me to be available for. So I tend to look for the recorded session and watch back live. So I think it is absolutely a test period. And Tom, you'll learn that over time. And it'll make it a lot more comfortable because there's nothing more train wreck like watching someone fumble their way through a live.
Okay.
It's time to do a live.
Yeah, I know.
Contact.
Yeah, I know. Now, well, I want to ask you another question that's come in from Inigo. Would you stand by quantity over quality, meaning not worrying if the daily story post is going to convince someone to sell, just letting people know that you're still working and hustling? I think, to summarize that question, I think what they're saying is, would you stand by quantity over quality? I don't know.
Look, quality, don't post for the sake of posting. That's when people start posting awful stuff and it's not relevant. So I talk about content pillars and themes, have a right to talk about a topic and then only post about those topics and then weight the topic as well. So you should be weighting property news and statistics and locality more than you should be weighting what you had for breakfast at the local cafe. So if you get stuck and think, I haven't posted today, don't post for the sake of it. That's the wrong time to do it. That's where you should sit and say, okay, I've only got to get through about 4 a week. And if you get through 3, that's okay. And if you get through 6, even better. But don't aim for a post a day or 2 a day because you think just keep banging out quantity. It needs consistency.
Okay. Another question I have is like the biggest mistakes that you see agents make in this whole thing. What are some of the ones that are obvious?
Yeah, they go gung-ho for this short amount of time and expect those 75 leads in a week and then go, this isn't working. I've never once had to sponsor posts for my business as a marketing agency. And what I hear in my regional environment, don't forget I live in regional New South Wales, is people say, oh, I saw you on Insta. Oh, I saw you post that. Consistency. I'm there all the time. And it's a mix. Please go and have a look at Banter just to follow how we mix up our content because I'm a marketing agency. We do strategy. Do you know how hard it is to photograph strategy and make a post out of that? It's really difficult. And I have a team that invests in it. And I invest in it for my business because it works. So when people say, I've seen you here, you've been doing this, I know that you've been in this place. I saw the great work that you did. That's how I know my social's working, because I would say 90% of the client inquiries that I have comes through firstly on their own, and then they say, I saw your socials, or I've gone and looked and followed what you're doing on social. Also starting by, I Google searched and then I checked you out. So I know that I'm investing in my social presence, frequency, and consistency because I'm constantly being told that it works. And I think what agents do is they get excited by this new medium. Firstly, it's free, except free is this much of your organic feed in 2022. It's about 1.5% of your total follower base will see your organic content, unless you have engagement. Now, this is probably the number one thing I can tell you all. The success of social is the sum of all the parts. On its own, each part on its own only does so much of the job. It needs all the parts. And when I say that, engagement is the number one thing that Zuckerberg wants out of his platform, because that's what creates connection. So when we say engagement, engagement is called a like, a share, a comment, a save. So on Instagram, you can save content. And in fact, saving content to the algorithm is more important than the double tap, the heart, or the like. It has weighting to all these actions. And just like we do in human pass you in the street world, if I'm going to smile at you, I expect someone to smile back. If I say hi, I expect someone to say hi back. So when people make a comment like, nice property, don't ignore it. At least heart it. There's the first action. Acknowledge it. And secondly, have a conversation with them. That's where people get let down in real estate. They don't think that they've got anything to say. Why not just reply? It is a great property. You should see the X room. The garden's amazing. Oh my goodness, if I could just have some dialogue that creates a dialogue. But instead, we're too fickle. We move on to the next thing. We're expecting the post to create this conversation all on its own. And I think people need to take that step back and say social is a two-way conversation, and I need to facilitate the conversation.
So guys and girls, SSLC, put that into your head. It's something that I'm obsessed with. It's funny you brought it up because I'm obsessed with that. SSLC, share, save, like, comment, right? Every time I'm posting, I'm thinking to myself, am I going to win anything in the game of those metrics? Or am I going to post it and it's just going to make me feel good, right? Yeah. Can real estate agents do it themselves instead of going to a company and say, hey, I want you to look after my social? I want to find, can they do it themselves?
Yes. The answer is yes. Now, like anything, sometimes you need some education and you need to really do it. There's I'm a digital educator, so I teach people how to do this, and real estate's a great platform to teach people. And I actually run a coaching program for real estate agents, being we can write your strategy for you and then hand it to you and say, here is your blueprint. And then we're going to run a coaching program every fortnight that is going to teach you steps that you're going to take, and I'm going to critique your work. I'm going to tell you if it's good, bad, or indifferent. I'm going to look at your plans and give you some good ideas about what else you should do instead of that. And it's a very natural process that my clients get to a point they don't need me anymore. That's a very proud parent moment when you get to say to your client, you're on your own. You don't need me anymore to hold your hand. You don't need
listen, I honestly reckon, by the way, this is not a setup for pitching for work, right?
It's no.
It's not a setup.
It's
but
not.
Valentina, I actually think to myself, it is a model that when you turn around and say, hey, I'm going to get someone to look after all my social media, right? So you start writing a check out for $3,000 a month, right? $3,000, whatever. What actually happens is all of that $3,000 does not go to Mark Zuckerberg, the media company. I mean, it goes to the agency that's managing the process. And then they then decide that I'm going to put X amount. And I always think to myself, man, if you're doing it yourself, you could have $3,000 worth of audience if you did it right. So if you're skilled enough to know, let's run a sponsored ad here, right? Is it hard to learn, Valentina?
No.
Right.
No, it's not hard to learn. So for about 3 hours worth of training, you can learn how to use Business Manager effectively. What people do is boost posts, because there's this lovely little button that pops up that says, you know, we recommend you boost this post for $10. Just bury the money in your backyard. You'll get a better return than doing that on a boosted post, that's for sure.
That's a trick, isn't it? It's just so easy to spend that money. It's just so easy. It's like the poker machines. That's what it feels like.
Right. So the poker machines are designed, and it's funny because I used to work in online gaming at any one stage of my life. And the sounds and the colors and the composition of design is all encouraging you to gamble more. And that little button, boost this post for $10 extra and you'll reach 500 more people, makes it really easy, you know, and even turning it into, it's the same as a coffee. It doesn't cost more than a coffee. You do that on the scale of the 16 million accounts that Facebook has in Australia, and you're making a lot of money for the Zuck, I can tell you that. And it's not smart. It's easy, but it's not smart. And by learning just some really core aspects of how sponsored posts work, you can make better informed decisions. What social is, though, is time consuming. Please don't think that agencies for $3,000 a month are ripping you off. They're not. To copyright, to design your assets, to upload them, to add the hashtag research, to then do the community management, to create your sponsored posts, and to do that all day, 7 days a week, is time consuming. You're paying for time. I value my time. You will never ever see me in an accounting package doing anything with numbers, because I pay an accountant to get it right and to do it efficiently. And people pay us, or agencies, because we've spent years getting good at this. And for us to craft a post, it might take 10 to 15 minutes. If I'm not in the headspace, that might take 20 minutes. For someone else that doesn't know what content to create, and that's half an hour, that's half an hour for a post. You're doing this 4 times a week, and we haven't done reels, we haven't done videos, and we haven't done stories yet. It all adds up in time. So you've got to assess and value what social does to be able to invest in it comfortably, to know that that's what I'm spending my money on. Because I've never been able to get free print space out of Fairfax because I gave them a call and said, but you're a media player, don't I get free stuff? Because that's what people expect out of social. It's not free.
Yeah. So good. You know, these Silicon Valley companies, they're not Mother Teresa. They're not a charity. I mean, these are businesses like Murdoch's, which where I've come from, right?
And that's it. And what they've done, Tom, is they spent years giving you the platform for free to build your sticky community, to build your following. And then they monetized it. That's all they did. It's not that unusual. So when they dropped organic reach and everyone's up in arms, gee, I've got no reach. I'm like, so you think the Sydney Morning Herald gives it to you for free? Do you think journalism's free? Where's this falling out of the sky from? We're not charities, we're businesses. And that's what people need to get.
Well said. Listen, 2-3 more minutes. I could talk to you for ages here. Useful content. You know, there's not much that you're sort of saying that doesn't make sense to me. Advice to an agent who's not getting much engagement on their social media posts.
Talk back. The reason that you're not getting engagement is because it takes a lot for me, customer, to see your post and care about writing a comment. And that's what engagement is, a comment and a conversation back and forward. So if you're not giving me a purpose to engage, why would I bother? I've moved on to the other post. You know, this scroll that I was talking about, 0.3 of a second is what we spend on that post. And you've just spent half an hour creating it and posting it.
Okay. Last question I'm going to ask you. Are you going to be cool to come back again? And yeah,
sure. This is fun. I love doing this.
And by the way, anyone that wants to, like, I don't know what you're like with capacity to take on work, but this concept of doing a 3-hour coaching session, then being given homework, and then doing this stuff, and then coming back, I don't reckon that's a bad deal. What is it? So it's the best way to. It's Banter.
So Banter Group.
Yeah.
.com.au, our website's there, the contact details are on there, or find us Banter Group. We're a B logo, which is easy to find, black and white B logo, and you can drop us even a DM, a direct message that is on social, and we'll be able to respond.
Susan's just added the link in the chat box for you, everyone.
True.
Banter Group. Now I want to ask you, TikTok. So I've stayed off TikTok, right? And,
Good
and
idea.
and and now I'm thinking to myself, and John McGrath said to me the other day, he goes, mate, listen, he goes, you're the only real estate trainer in Australia that is got the blue verification of Insta. You've got 70,000 on Facebook, Insta, mate. He goes, why aren't you on TikTok? And I think to myself, man, why aren't I? I think to myself, well, firstly, my youngest daughter doesn't want me to be on there, right? She doesn't, right? She's a bit there. The second reason is that I just look at the TikToks and I think to myself, man, is it going to help serve my business? But it's still attention, isn't it?
It is. And this is where, when we talk about strategy, you have to have a purpose for every channel that you're going to spend time in. Otherwise, you can be everywhere, but you're going to do it all badly. There's only so many hours in the day. Now, TikTok is the up and coming riser. And yes, it's got huge numbers. And if you go and spend some time in TikTok, understand, is that where my audience is? Now, they are largely under 30, you're right. And according to my son, who's 10 and wants to use my account, I don't have an account on purpose. I've read the terms and conditions, and TikTok takes every contact out of your phone and has access to your database when you sign up to TikTok. I've done it from a privacy perspective. I'm not sending my data and all of those contacts to TikTok. It's not happening. So that's number one. Number two, are under 30s going to be your target market for the immediate return? And I would probably say not. But what it will do is create brand awareness, and it creates brand stickiness. Now, when I say brand stickiness, think about the Commonwealth Bank Dolomite accounts. If anyone remembers these from school days, this was setting banking expectations in the minds of our children from the age of kindy, where you could go and deposit your 20-cent coin in your little envelope at school and create a savings account. Now, we know this behavior. The banks have known this behavior. We're not going to switch that account. We follow that account through to our adult years, and it's only then when we're going into home loans that we've been now with the same bank since we've been in kindy. So you can actually create brand influence at a young age on TikTok, but they're not going to be your immediate buyer. They could be, but when you've got a finite amount of time, you've got to create content for each of these channels in different ways. And in saying that, for YouTube, we're talking landscape. For Facebook and Instagram, we're talking portrait. And on Instagram particularly, we're talking square. So now you've got another format, which is TikTok, which is short video format that has to be to trending music. Trending music's the hugest part of what TikTok success is. And that's where you need to learn about each of these tricks of the trade of each platform is slightly nuanced. You can't just do the same thing on all of them. It doesn't work.
Yeah. And that's probably one of the reasons, because, Valentina, a lot of people are like, I do my own social media, and people are very surprised. They say, what, you post it yourself? I do. Look, it's scalable with Facebook and Insta because, they're owned by the same people and it allows you. But what I noticed, what you've just said there, is the content's got to be on Insta. The audience is a little bit lower. I've got to add music to it. I've got to add text. And I've got to try and make the people laugh or shock them a little bit more, right? Or otherwise they sort of just not look at it. And then it just creates this other layer. But what you're sort of saying is these people now most likely will be your customer in 5 to 10 years, right? And you're getting in there early into their mind.
Into their psyche, that's right. And is TikTok going to be around in 5 to 10 years? I wish I had that crystal ball. I'd be a billionaire. I don't know if that's the case. It certainly wasn't there 10 years ago. And Snapchat came and it evaporated in the same amount of time. And, we're seeing YouTube come out with a format called Shorts to take on TikTok. We've seen Reels on Instagram extend their duration to take on TikTok. There's no bigger insult to TikTok to have someone take a TikTok video and post it to Instagram. Take it from Channel 7 and post it on Channel 9. That's essentially what just happened. And Instagram as a platform put a stop to it to say any TikTok video like that gets taken down. So
Thank you so
it's
much.
a tough game.
Josh has just asked, do you help agents in New Zealand? You do a coaching session in New Zealand over Zoom.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you do that. Hey, everyone. We've kept you a little bit longer. Valentina, thank you so much. Absolute pleasure. Guys and girls, as I said to you, we are going to be introducing far more training on social media. We also want to make sure, Valentina, when they're spending that money, I don't want them to fall into that, trick that Zuckerberg's got, which is the easiest button to press is the boost button. So I want to help people spend their money intelligently. So maybe next time we catch up, we can talk about, this concept of sponsored versus boost, like if you had $50 on a property, what's an intelligent way to do it on that property? But again, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. To everyone, have a good evening tonight. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Terrific. Thank you. See ya.